Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is One Day Today, episode 148. Thank you all for joining us and being with us. I am very excited about our guest today, who you will meet in just a moment. But first off, just hello. How are you? How's your day? Well, I feel like we say this a lot, and a lot of people ask, "What is one day? What's one day about? What is this virtual stage?" And ultimately, you know, I believe we all have something unique that we have to offer. We all have something unique that can uplift and empower someone else. No matter what it is we do, who we are, what we believe, what color or size we are, there are things inherent in the things that we value that bring us joy, but also things that we uniquely have and that we can be, and what we can do is plant seeds of love, of plant seeds of laughter and beauty and joy, and you know things that impact someone else. We all have that in us, whether we are very clear on that or have no idea. There's something unique that you have that can be a gift to someone else, and that's what the stage is about. It's an invitation to share your gifts and your gifts and your gifts. Like we all have gifts to share. And sometimes it's hard and it's scary to share, but that's really where it's in the impact that we can make with others. That I guess, speaking for myself, it's in the impact that I experience that I can make for someone else, whether it's make them laugh or smile, or to support them in breaking through the barriers and achieving what lights them up, and what drives their very heart and soul. you know Usually that's something when we realize what we're doing and who we're being is lifting someone else up, making someone else feel good, making someone else see who they are and who they're not, and to just go beyond what they ever thought was possible. But anyways, today is no exception, and I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. Please welcome to the stage Cindy Light. Hi, Cindy. Welcome.
Hey, Abram, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm glad after all the technical difficulties and switching devices and rotating screens, we got it working. We can see and hear each other, so I'm having a great day, and I'm I'm excited to have you. But let's just jump into it if you're ready, Cindy.
I am always ready to talk. So it's a good time to start if it's a good time for you. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you, everybody, all the viewers and the regular people that have been watching Abram and his journey. And I just thank you so much. And I honor you for giving me this time right now and your attention. It's very humbling to me. You could be doing any number of anything else in this world, but you're sitting here right now and you're going to listen to my message. So that means a lot to me. I'm very grateful for that, and I do not take that lightly. So I will not waste your time. Basically, I have had quite a journey that I didn't plan in my life. And so now that I'm in my 40s, it's really coming around to um, where you realize, oh, wow, all of that happened and I learned X, Y, and Z. And so for me, I'm a Midwestern girl. I was born and raised in the northwest suburbs of Chicago and drinking out of the hose and putting plastic bags on our boots in the wintertime. That's the deal. And then in my later teen years, I got a little feisty and I ended up moving to California when I was 18. And there's a lot more to that story, but we'll get into it a little bit. But what I am sharing with you is just the fact that out of the gate, I was not, a cookie cutter kid. There was always something that I was achieving, something I was going for, and also something that I was dealing with in terms of life and trauma. And so today, what I hope to do with my message is to bring joy and levity to otherwise heavy and difficult topics and situations, and allow for the light to come in, I always like to say that, let the light in. And that's just like why I got my name, Cindy Light. God told me you needed the name. I was like, oh, okay. And so hopefully today, by the end of my message, you will feel that uplifting and feel that even though we will struggle, we can persevere. And I am a believer, I'm a faith-based woman. So there's two Bible verses that immediately come to mind, which are Romans 5:3, which is to glory in tribulations, because tribulations brings perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope. And the greatest of these is hope. And so I believe what I'm going to talk about is going to glorify that in all of its glory, if you will, and really help to pick apart. It can get extremely overwhelming to deal with a chronic disease, if you will, or a life situation that you weren't expecting. And my goal today is to give you just a couple of really easy, I'll call them escape routes, to when everything starts to become way too overwhelming and you can't handle it. Because we all need these in our lives. We all need to know, what am I going to do when XYZ happens, right? And so we'll get into that. But just a little bit more about me is I am from the Midwest. I moved to California when I was 18. I got an apartment, a car, and a job. I was, I was overcoming some of my not best days, if you will. So I had gotten involved in drugs when I was in Chicago. And so before I left there, I became sober. And then when I came out to California, I joined a sober living environment to help myself grow in a healthy place once I moved out here. And so I started in that environment and got myself planted here. And just imagine yourself as an 18-year-old moving across the country. When I look back on it now, I'm like, it kind of freaks me out. It's just like, it's a really intense thought. But for me, I was coming towards what I wanted in my life, which was like an acting career, to be creative. And I was walking away from negative relationships, a difficult parental, relationship. And maybe some of you also can relate to having a difficult parental relationship. When I was born, my mom was still in high school in the 70s, and my dad ran off and joined the Navy. So all I had was my grandma and my three crazy uncles. So when I was raised, what I saw as, an example of like the American family was definitely not what I emulate or try to teach or to give to my kids, okay? So I did a lot of fantasizing through like the television shows that I grew up watching, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what's supposed to happen on an anniversary. Okay, because you watch the television shows like celebrate the certain holidays and the life things. And so I was learning that from the television instead of learning it from like my actual life, because it didn't feel like I really had one. I had a bedroom and a TV and a little keyboard thing. It wasn't even a computer. It was like a keyboard that attached to the television. Come on, somebody from the 80s. But nevertheless, I was definitely meant to make it out to California. And when I made it out to California, I had a wonderful discoverance. Like my 20s was discovering this and that, and having adventures and falling in love and thinking that everything was going to be, wonderful. And it's a wonderful thing to write that storybook out in your head, but life just doesn't turn those pages like that sometimes. Sometimes life turns a page on you that you really weren't expecting. And what then? What then? So I was in my marriage, and we were together for over a decade already when we were having our first child. And right after my second child was born, I found out that I was in kidney failure. And I had to spend a week in the hospital, and I found out that I had to have a kidney transplant. So that news, and I was only 30, so that was just like, wait, what? And so you go from just living life and doing what you think you're supposed to be doing to all of a sudden there's an entire rule book. There's all of these people giving you advice. There's the fear that inherently grows inside of you. And then there's your partner, another whole human being over here with a whole other set of thoughts and fears and all of that. And so you have to deal with, oh wait, and then there's children involved. So we've got to keep our ish together, right? And for me, having left a tattered, if you will, family situation, it's harder when something happens. That's hard, because what happens when things are hard? Family comes together. But what happens when you don't have family like that? Well, some people go to the church, and I did go to the church, but I did experience also some hurt there. So that's not always the albeit and run to things. We have to find the place. We have to find it in ourselves. There's a place I can take myself at any time where I can just remove myself from the stress, and I can breathe, and I'm able to think and process. I guess this would be like kind of buffering. When you see that like circle on YouTube or whatever, you can like catch Cindy at a certain time and angle, and you'll see me buffering. And that's trying to like, okay, what are we gonna do now? How are we gonna deal with this? What are you gonna, blah, blah, blah. And then you come out blazing, if you will. Well, some of us go for the glory, and some of us end up crashing, on our face. And I've done both. I will be happy to share that I had a wonderful kidney transplant from my mother, and that went off, and everything went off without a problem. The only complication I ended up with was having to leave my career as a photographer. I got put on these medications, and I was shaking so badly that I couldn't even hold my pen to write. So I ended up retiring at that time as a photographer. So life just continued to shift for me. And it was like, oh, you thought you were going to be happy and, have 2 kids. Well, let me throw some domestic abuse onto that. Oh, you thought you were going to be happy and healthy. Well, let me throw some kidney disease on that. Oh, you thought you were going to be a professional photographer. Well, let me add a little handshake to that. Let's see how you handle that, Cindy. And I feel like it's like we are given these assignments, and we definitely have a choice, and we get to choose if we are going to, fight, or, well, that's so funny. We have the two different nervous systems, fight or flight, right? Which is our one, and rest or digest. And so in the end, we really only have those 2 choices. Am I going to fight this, or am I going to try to get into this and figure this out, right? And so for me, I've done a little bit of both, depending on the day of the week and the time and the moon cycle, apparently. A lot of my friends tell me. But I'll tell you what, something that has always given me peace is faith. And whatever you believe, or however you've come to believe, I'll share openly. Like, I was raised Catholic. In the Catholic Church, I remember the holy water and the felt Moses, and when they shunned my mother for getting divorced. So like there's like it's like, it's very, I forget the word, but there's only a couple of different memories there. I am hoping to be giving my children like a lifelong relationship with faith and the community, and helping them see. But see, to me and to some of us, and we don't realize it at the time, is we're doing a whole bunch of stuff, but going backwards, well, what did you actually remember of that? Well, all I remembered was running around the downstairs of the church, and the fact that we weren't allowed to go anymore, right? And so those are some of the feelings that I grew up with because we stopped going to church at that point. But in my growing up, I realized I needed a power greater than myself because I would get myself into this type of situation or that, or just feel empty and alone. And I needed somebody, something, someone, somewhere to rescue me. And in the Bible, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." And so it's a nice invitation, and you have to deal with people while you are discerning the word of God, because people have been hurt, and hurting people hurt people. And so that's where I think a lot of people get confused in faith, is because they're either being mentored by somebody that has been very legalistic, or by somebody who doesn't know enough, to really give you the meat of the why. Because I'll tell you what, to be rescued in that way by a higher power, it is such a dynamic experience, and it doesn't just happen one time. It continues to happen as you continue to surrender yourself. So I want to encourage you today that a faith walk is that. It's a walk. It's one foot in front of the other, step by step by step, season by season by season. So I feel led to speak to you in this way for a few reasons. First of all, my name is Cindy Light. They call me the Mom of Light. And I have been passionate about sharing my faith ever since I got it. But then I got a calling card from God, and that was my daughter, Lily. And when I was having my kidney transplant, I was, but when I was finding out I was needing a kidney transplant, I was pregnant with my second daughter, as I mentioned. And when we did the tests and such, they didn't want to induce the labor of her too soon. So they kept me in the hospital for a while, and then eventually they induced her labor. And the morning that Lily was born, I was given a drug called Pitocin to induce my labor, which did its job. And then my doctor came into the room and broke my water, which a lot of women are familiar with this process. Well, the doctor went into another room to deliver another baby at that time, and she wasn't available. So all of a sudden, my baby was like, "Oh, I'm coming." And I didn't have a doctor in the room, so the ladies panicked, and they closed my legs and turned me on my side. Eventually, I got my doctor back. She came in the room. She delivered my baby. My baby was born at 1:14 p.m. And I love numbers, and so does God, because he wrote a book about them. But Genesis 1:14 is, "Let there be lights." You guys, that's our name, Let there be lights. Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky, and let them serve as signs. Let them serve as signs. Come on, somebody. Of the seasons, days, and years. So what are you going to do with that? I'm a faithful woman, and I told God that if he got me through the things that he got me through, that I would share him with people. And he got me through, guys. So I feel inclined to share the faith part of my journey as much as I do the strength and the willingness and the being your own patient advocate with the doctors and such, because it's that much of an important category of your journey of healing. Because I'm telling you what, finding your faith and finding a way to cast the burdens, finding a way to release the stress, finding someone to lean on in these moments where it is just too much. Speaking of too much, let's see, my daughters were 11 and 9. I had just gotten divorced from domestic violence. I am in my new home that I rented for myself because I had gotten the best job ever and was doing all the right things and everything was working out for me. And I just touched my breast and I felt something you wouldn't want to feel. And in that immediate moment, I said to myself, I have breast cancer. And I couldn't even fathom, but I did. And I had stage 3B breast cancer, and it was inflammatory breast cancer. Now, from finding out you have something like that as a single mom, just starting out on her own again, I'm telling you what, you need people around you. You need people around you that love you and are willing to just get into the dirt with you and sit there and cry if they have to. So I am encouraging you to see those people because they are in your life. I know that they are. Because I watch people that post crazy stuff on the internet. And there's always that one or two people that are always cheering them on. So just know you really are not alone. You really are not alone. Because I'm telling you what, just when you think you couldn't take another brick, another one might come. And I am not saying that to scare somebody, but it's just reality. I was able to heal from breast cancer and have breast reconstructive surgery just to wake up and see that my surgeon did a terrible job at like matching both sides. So it's like, if it's not one thing, it's another. And so for me, I'll go crazy getting angry at people, getting upset with people, being on this emotional wave. Like, I would not be able to function if I did not have my faith. Because when I release the stress, the pain, the worry, the fear, and I give it to Him, and the Bible says to cast your fears, and that's not like casting like fishing and then like casting and then pulling in the line again. That's like throwing in the whole fishing pole and still believing you're going to eat fish for dinner. We have to believe that we're going to heal. We have to stand up, even if like all of the odds are against you. There is no laying down to die. We must be called to that because no one else is going to come and fight for us. We got a person that will come and fight in the midst with us, but we have to tapping in. And I'll tell you what, it was special people in my life that spoke into my life and that said things to me that I needed to hear, that I didn't know I needed to hear, but here they were saying it. And so always know that your wisdom is so valued in your community. I would say this, if you're listening and you're the type of person that kind of stands on the wall and never says anything because you wouldn't want to impose, I'm wondering, what are you robbing someone of? Like, what if you just tapped them on the shoulder real quick and said, hey, would you mind if I told you what I see here? It's so important for us to have mentorship and to receive mentorship, I believe, in this world, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And I have seen it from many different spectrums. I grew up very poor. I have had a taste of, being able to have what I want when I want, and I want that again. And I'm in that journey now as an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur who has dealt with chronic illness and all these other issues, I feel that I have the ability to guide others that have also gone through the same thing and give them new hope, And so I feel like the journey that I have been put on is to not only this little girl, right? These inner child of all of ours that needs to heal. But as I have found the keys to unlock the doors to my healing, I'm leaving clues. I'm leaving the key in the door for the next person who's got to come. I'm making a Facebook post so that way somebody somewhere sees it, because they wouldn't have heard or seen it otherwise. So I think it's so important for us all to find our voices and to be comfortable in that and to share that with people. You're seeing it right now, my breakout. I have books to write, I have people to reach, but fear and doubt have definitely done a number on me in this department. Some of you will watch this and say, oh no, not her, she was great. And others will understand. But nevertheless, it's true. I have definitely held myself back more than anybody else has held me back. I don't know if anybody else can agree with that. I don't know if anybody else on this podcast is watching who needs a change in their life. I don't know anybody, maybe somebody's on here and they need a second business. Maybe somebody's on here and they've got a disease that they're dealing with. Well, amen, honey. I'm here throwing out the breadcrumbs. So I'm glad that you're here today, because it is difficult. It is difficult to be in this world, but it's also difficult to be in this world as a single mom, a domestic violence survivor, a 2-time cancer survivor, a kidney transplant survivor, dealing with arthritis, it's just like put a cherry on it or whatever. All we really need is love. I don't know about you, but after a really, really hard week or a really hard day or a really hard anything, a hug from my 11-year-old daughter can melt it all away. A hug from my 14-year-old daughter lasts a year because I hardly get them anymore. She's just growing up. She's just her own woman now. I mean, the way that we can overcome, we overcome darkness with light, right? And so I apply that to each and every place in my life, because the darkness comes from me, because he sees the smile and he sees the ambition. And so for anybody out there that is feeling marginalized, I see you, girl. I see you, bro. I hear you and I feel you. I know, because I've been there and I'm coming up out of it, I've got great community and structures and systems and a great lifestyle for anybody that wants to come and poke around and see what Cindy's got going on after seeing this video. But I have found a great life in helping people. I mean, I took this, how you bake a cake and you got all the ingredients, and I took all of my ingredients and I baked a cake and I became a certified holistic health practitioner. I became a certified juice therapist. I'm becoming a personal trainer and nutritional counselor, like get the actual certificate, because I went through it myself. And so now that I've gone through it, I kind of earned my own trophy already. Well, I wouldn't say trophy. What do they call it? Diploma, right? It's like I'm already the PhD. And now it's my opportunity to come and pour back around. And I think that's what is being done for all of us, and as I wrap it up, I believe that each and every one of us has this voice. Each and every one of us is going to be given a trial. The Bible also says in 1 Peter 5:10 that first you will suffer, but then the Lord God himself will confirm and establish you. I'm feeling pretty good about that personal establishment from that big guy up there. You know why? Because I've experienced his grace, I've experienced his love, I've experienced his mercy. And that is something that I wish to be able to pass to anybody out there that's not experienced it, doesn't know how to tap into it, and has no idea what I'm talking about even. But I'll tell you what, as we are all traversing this world and finding our ways, finding our paths, what works, how to get the bills paid, this and that, how to live a comfortable life, I think we could all do better thinking about how we can be leaving the breadcrumbs for the next person, for somebody who doesn't have the voice. So I leave you with that. How could you be leaving the breadcrumbs for people to pick up on in your life and in your successes and in all the things that you're wonderful at? How are you leaving a legacy so that people behind you can benefit from what you've figured out, right? I figured out a thing or two dealing with so many doctors and chronic disease and divorce and even in business, trying out different businesses. But you keep trying enough things and you certainly will find, you will find it. And so I just want to thank you so much for listening in today and letting my story ignite your future, because I do believe that in a way I'm here because you needed to hear something that I said, because you have an assignment on your life to complete something or to achieve something. And maybe you're on a pause right now, or maybe you're looking for inspiration. Well, this was it. And I just thank you and I honor you. And I'm so humbled for your attention today. And I look forward to speaking with you again on another occasion, and we can get into some more stuff, because I'm kind of like a onion. I just unraveled the first layer today, but there's a lot more. And I just want to encourage all of you, with the respect of time, to leave the breadcrumbs.
Cindy, thank you so much for sharing your story. And there's so much that came up for me, and I could relate and just do your sharing. But first, I want to acknowledge you for your courage in walking your journey, walking through that your lonesome valley, so to speak, and finding your way, but also your commitment to being that source and that space of love and life for others.
Mm.
It's contagious, just I mean, just where you're coming from. I can feel and I could see in your story, and just how it's, and your acceptance and your surrendering to the present moment, whatever is there. It's inspiring, like, what is it? There's something we say a lot. I'll credit Matthew, our co-host. We say this a lot, is on the other side of trauma lies wisdom. And
Oh, yeah.
we add like a little parentheses, if you choose to see it or choose to pursue it. And it's when you boil it all down to, what it comes down to is a choice. And but get it. But I'm just curious, like, go like to that point and that sentiment, go back to the beginning, that choice we all have to make. We have to walk our own valley. What is it that, go back to, between Chicago and California, when you were what you used to call feisty, like in your feisty era, what was it that, cracked open the door for you? Like, you know, and when you said everyone needs like a mentor, you're just like, and but also to offer mentorship. And I really hear that, like, the universal hero's journey in that, like,
Yeah,
this is your hero's journey. But what was, like,
for
I mean, I
sure.
could tell you my, the first thing, maybe it didn't like floodgates open, but it was like the first crack in my armor of who I thought I was before that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it was waking up in the cardiac ICU and not knowing where I
Mm,
was or what had happened. And I was like not even 18 years old yet. But I was like one of those, like, I graduated from high school early, I started college early, and then I got a really older crowd of friends, right, that were into a whole bunch of stuff that exposed me to things that I should have never been exposed to. But because I was trying to cover up the trauma of being abandoned by my father, I was just like, give it to me. And so the potentiality for literally killing myself was the first open door, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you're like scared
Well,
of your own possibilities.
absolutely. Well, and I think that it's exactly that. We're scared of our own possibilities. Like that's that's the extremes and the duality of heaven and hell. Like in a
Mhm.
it like how like for ourselves, like what is our idea of heaven? What is our like
100%.
for living our best, most fulfilled life, and but also feeling the worst and being, you know, at the effect of life, and you know not experiencing the faith, and as you describe. And I can just hear you're not somebody who worries much, and you
Well,
seem
that's
very.
funny that you say that because think of polarity here. As much faith as I have, I can experience that much fear, if you will. Like it will grip me, but it's not that the weapon will not form, it's that it will not prosper. And
Yeah,
so we shouldn't expect to never become sad or fearful. But when we do, it's what we do in that moment that matters.
how do I respond to it? Yeah, give it
Yeah.
you give it leg you can make it a monster and give it legs, or you can see it for what it is and be like, oh, I see you, fear, and I'm
Yes,
gonna
my
do this
demon.
anyway.
Like, come take a selfie with me, my
Yeah,
demon.
it's like, oh, yeah, get on over here. I love that. Well,
Yeah, well,
that's
it's
actually a
important.
powerful personifying it is actually like in my experience is something that I'm glad you said that, because it's like when you actually like acknowledge it in the moment, like you can laugh at it, you can kind of separate, you can like even joke with like where it's like where there would be weight and seriousness and frustration. It's like like just making it something that you can actually like see the absurdity, the silliness, where you can actually joke about taking a selfie with your demon. Like that's a like I
Yeah.
feel like that's it, that like that's doing it. It's like that's a
Yes,
choice in the moment. You could easily be like, oh, I do that and I'm really sad and depressed about it, or you could be like, oh yeah, no, I take
yes.
selfies with my demon because he sneaks up
Exactly.
on
It's
me.
like you got this nightmare in your head, right? And this
Yeah.
like demon is like trying to attack you. Well, how about you put like bunny ears on that demon and like give it something else and turn it into something else because we are that powerful. We have dominion.
I
And we have
love
to
that.
be reminded about that all the time. We have dominion over these things.
Yeah, I love that, and that just like you think of like it's the same with people, like we all, I mean, we're all human. We all been grumpy or just committed to feeling bad and sad and like down, and like those times where like a friend of ours or somebody said something really fun. Wanted to be irritated, but we couldn't help but laugh, and it's like you can be that interjection of like even if someone's feeling despair or what they may be feeling, it's like that's those breadcrumbs that you're talking about. Like
Yes. Yeah, it's
it's human
important
being.
because, like, I mean, I don't know about you and how you go on social media or whatever, but there are a few women that have changed my life.
Mm,
There are a few posts, a few memes that have changed my life. That
yeah,
it's like a veil got ripped that didn't need to be there, and oh, and for me that type of discovery, like I don't ever want to lose that. I meet so many people that are like the way they are and I'm just like, okay. And I'm more like Play-Doh, like I don't know, I guess I'll just leave it like that. More just like letting life mold me, becoming what I need to become because this certain thing happened. Like I didn't know I was going to be a certified holistic health practitioner. I wanted to be like a Vogue model. But here I am, and I am, caring about what people juice in the morning so that they don't get disease. I didn't know that was going to happen, but this life has molded me and I have allowed it to. Now there's people like
yeah,
like my mom who is in the same job, who wants the same job, that doesn't want to change jobs because she doesn't want any change. And it's just like, oh, but to me, the duality is I feel like if she did change and do different things in her life, she would see more joy,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's everybody gets their opportunity to decide this in life. And so that's why I say about the breadcrumbs, because when I see something, that somebody has done or achieved, and they just leave a little something there for me to snack on, for me to absorb, it helps me to become a little bit more.
Mm. Totally.
That's how
Yeah.
you feel me. I love you. You're the best. I love that. We talked here a few times, and I was so excited to get this, done. And I just can tell that you're a really good listener, and you care about getting stories out there. So I really appreciate you, and I thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. I there's so much more that I feel like we could unpack in what you're saying, and but like, but you can really see and hear the transformation in your conversation with yourself, with God, and your conversation. Really, ultimately, you're with the present moment. Again, what happened?
Yeah.
You're more accepting, and I think I've had moments that I've had been on both extremes of resisting everything that I'm experiencing and avoiding responsibility and feeling the most powerless, and then being on the other side of that. And you also said this at the beginning, that you have your place, like that you can go to. It's like you can at any moment the world might be knocking down, lighting on fire, igniting, exploding. It's like you have a place inside yourself that detaches you from that experience of not identifying with what's happening to you.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what I feel everybody, I feel like we could all use that, like that place. And it's like, for me, finding my journey, a lot of the I exhausted looking everywhere except inside. I was like, it was knowledge for a while, like understanding all these things. And I mean, that's what it had to start there for me to go through that marathon, to realize, oh, I didn't have to leave the starting line. It's all like, it's all right here inside me, and I want to like seek every perspective and every being skeptical of my own skepticism. So mine was like really releasing my mind, my thoughts about myself, thoughts about the universe, thoughts about God, thoughts about all, their thoughts. They weren't me. And it was like that revelation of like, oh, who I am is way more infinite than
Yeah.
just these
Well said.
conversations I have. And that's kind of partly what one day, our tagline is one day is today. And it's because like we will say, we'll have conversations like individually, but also collectively, of one day I'll do that thing that's important. One day I'll write that book, write that song. And I'm guilty of all these things, but like, we'll say one day this, but detach ourselves from having any part in that future. We remove ourselves. It's like, oh, one day I'll lose that weight, or one day, but it's like, it's today. We have to. It's like it always happens today. Like, it doesn't happen to this abstract idea of tomorrow. But anyway, like that is, you know, the conversations that we say to ourselves, to each other, is our biggest hindrance, but also our greatest asset. It's our words, what we create for ourselves. And
Mhm.
like what you created is, again, you're like a source, a generator of love and light. And
Oh,
that's that.
thank you.
And well, I want to challenge one thing that you said. We said, and it is a relative truth, in that which is a dog eat dog world. And I think while there are dogs eating dogs, like clearly there's also people like you who are planting
Mhm.
seeds and dropping breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that's why I was like cringing while I said that, but I went ahead and
Oh well,
I used it in that moment. And you're so, I like that you pulled it out, because I've been talking to a certain friend all week about the way we talk to ourselves and
mhm,
how we speak to ourselves and stuff. And
yeah,
whatever you say is true, is true. Like,
yes. there's a,
Yeah.
I think there's like a Henry Ford quote. It's something like, it's like
Yeah,
whether you say you can or say you can't, you're
you're
right
right.
either way,
Well,
and
yeah.
that's what it is. And like I think I may have, I mean, I talked to someone recently, but it may even been our guest last week. But it's, whatever we focus on, it's like I use the metaphor. I think I may have said this very recently on the stage, but it's worth repeating. But like this is kind of tied in with something my mom, a moment with my mom, really pointed to this wisdom that, you know, I asked her one day, and she has the most amazing garden in our neighborhood, and like she's just an incredible gardener, and that's her, like, really her, you know, her true spiritual practice, I would say, even if she doesn't call it that. Like that's her, like her heart and soul is in it, and it shows, and it's like she brings her joy, and it inspires me and everyone in my neighborhood. But I would ask her, what do you do with your, like, I would ask her, what do you do with your weeds? And she said, like, well, there's no such thing as weeds. Those are just plants that we specifically think are ugly. And I really see that as like a life metaphor of,
Dude, that's deep.
it's like what we see, like, not only whatever we focus on, whatever thought we focus on, whatever conversation we say to ourselves, that's what grows. But it works both ways. And we can see, so I can be committed to the world is very ugly, and seek out, have that filter that I see all the ugliness. But I also could be committed to, and the world is a beautiful place full of amazing inspiration and wonder, and beyond my, even what I can even imagine. And you can see that if that's what you're choosing to look for, and that's what the seed you're watering. And like that's, I have to, I mean, it's something that I find myself constantly having to remind myself, and I forget. Like it's like I'm like, oh, I've just been watering the seed of just being, avoiding discomfort, and not doing what I said, being like living in my id, and avoiding really what I, finishing that song, or finishing what I say I'm committed to myself, and I'll make every excuse in the world as a justification, rather than just do what I say I'm committed to,
Yeah.
or release it, say, oh, I'm not doing that. It's, but we all have our version of that, and like, but it is a seat, like it's all a conversation for me, it's all a conversation for you, and like we all have a choice, like you
Yeah.
said, to
Yeah.
what seeds we can plant, and
Yeah,
do
it's like
plant.
the analogy of the two wolves, we each have the
Oh
two
yeah.
wolves, and which one
Hmm.
wins? Well, the one you feed more.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's true, and it doesn't mean the other wolf won't, present itself or disguise itself as the
exactly.
good wolf, wearing a
Right.
mustache this time. It's like, it's me, I
Yeah,
swear. It's like
with a
something
red,
seems a little off about you, and it's like, I
a
can't.
little red hood on.
Like, I swear I'm the good wolf. I swear I'm the good wolf. Like, no, I'm not the black wolf. So that's that's awesome. But
I should say, anybody that wants to get in touch with me, should check me out on Instagram at Cindy Light Wellness. I do have a holistic health practice, and I do help people with personal juicing prescriptions. But my most passionate thing is helping teach and educate people about living water. This is water with molecular hydrogen in it. So Essential Wellness Education is my website, but Cindy Light Wellness will get you a direct line to me here on Instagram, or I'm on TikTok too, Cindy Light Holistic Life. And I would love to speak with you, hear from you, and educate you so that you can also own Never Buy Again water and have the most healthy water for you and your family and your home.
all right, awesome. So I have one more question before we finish, because I think
Please.
I feel like we have a lot we could continue. We could talk for a
Well, I
long
could talk
time.
a lot about a lot of
I know,
different things. So
I
I'm gonna,
know. Well, I'm just saying, it's like that's the problem with this for me. Is like I could talk to everybody who is a guest here for hours, because there's so many things to dive into, and that's why I'm gonna ask you to come back sometime in the future.
I would love
And,
that. Absolutely.
um, but my one more question, because you were sharing like that moment earlier that kind of cracked open the door for you, and maybe it sounded like it was bigger than just a crack. It was like a, not only a reality check, but a like you saw your own hell, version of hell, of your experience, how you're feeling, and what future there was no possibility beyond suffering. That's what and those are my words. I just that's what I heard in what you shared. But
Yeah.
so if like, what do you say somebody right now who's on the cut who knows there's something in them that they have a desire to plant those, to spread those breadcrumbs, to plant those seeds, but they're like kind of standing at the edge of the cliff of, should I jump and tear off the band-aid and run through this scary alone place, or just run away, like, so like what, like,
Mm,
so what do you say, like, to
good
somebody
question.
right there on the cusp of that?
Absolutely. Well, I want to let you know that you're not alone. And so that first thought is that you are not alone. Somebody else is on the ledge right there with you. And what I would say to somebody is think of, for me, it is like when you get to the other side of this issue, think of the wisdom that you're going to be able to have and bestow back to somebody, right? Like I feel that is always like legacy is so important to me, but also just it's that perseverance. And that's why Romans 5:3 is my life verse, to glory and tribulation and that to glory and tribulation. Like what? I'm supposed to glory in it? Yeah, you know why? Because you're gonna get character, perseverance, and hope. And it's like I have stood on that edge so many times, and I've had to say to myself, is this small problem worth taking me out of this huge life of influence I'm supposed to have? Is this one tiny problem going to be, it's kind of like a mouse in a room with a big, strong guy, right? Like, why would you be afraid of this little small mouse? And so, without sounding, silly, this too shall pass. That's the mantra I give to myself. This too
Mhm.
shall pass. And then at that back end of that, man, I'm going to have a story that I'm going to be able to tell. I'm going to be able to talk about the fact that overcoming, facing your demons, walking into the fire, it is not for the faint of heart, but it is for those that have a mission and a dream that can't let that go. And if you are that type of person, you can walk right through that storm and come out the other side not even smelling like smoke. These are the promises that we have when we take on the power and the dominion that's been given to us before the beginning of time. And for people that don't have like their faith walk on like that, maybe that won't hit. But to somebody, I just sowed a seed, and that's going to grow into a giant oak tree of faith one day. And it's okay. We all start somewhere.
Hmm. Beautifully said, and thank you. I feel
Whew.
that those words are powerful, and and anyone could relate in that situation. And that's the thing is, and I love that this too shall pass. That's it's the impermanence
Yep.
of the good and the bad.
Yep.
There is peace in that. Really getting that, not just intellectually knowing it, but getting it, an experience.
Yeah, it's
Um,
so true. It's so true. Like I had surgery a month ago, and that surgery made it completely impossible for me to sleep on my right side. But here we are 4 weeks later, and hey, guess
mhm.
what? I got to turn onto my right side the other night. I had to
Nice.
go through, right? I had to go through a period of time where that was impossible. And then I felt like, okay, soon. And then finally I was able to do it. And so I love metaphors. If that worked for you, just all I want is for people believing in themselves and walking towards, their destiny, like their purpose. Because there's nothing worse for me than people just living an automatic life, just set on autopilot and doing the same things every single day. And so I just encourage you to like smell the roses. I keep coming up with these. Smell the roses, this too shall pass. I'll have some more original ones next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, next time you'll share some of those, more of those with us.
Thank you so much, Abram.
Thank you, Cindy. It was such an honor, a pleasure to have you and to share with us. Like your story is so powerful, and just also who you are choosing to be in your calling right now. It's I feel it's just inspiring. So thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for saying that. Those words impacted me. Thank you so much. I look forward to all the future. So this is such a lovely time.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it as well. And to all of you watching, thank you. Just remind you why we're here. One Day's mission is bringing you and me, communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's all part of the One Day vision. Amen. Thank you. I'll take
so
it.
Good.
Can I get an amen? And our vision is humanity is rising in a connected world with each person's unique gifts, unique contributions, unique genius are being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. That's what this is about. Find your breadcrumbs that you can drop and imagine just the impact and how many people's lives you can.
Let's get out. Let's be alchemists and get our breadcrumbs and see what we can make out of that, man. Let's do it.
Yes, whatever you've overcome and triumphed over in your tribulations, that's something else that's a value that you can help someone else get across.
Things do not happen to us. They happen for us. And if you're going through something right now, you are going through it so that you can testify to how you got over it to the next people behind you. So, and that's like so deep in heritage and indigenous people. Things get passed down. And sometimes with us, things have gotten skipped. Like certain generations fell off, didn't do what they were supposed to do, right? Didn't pass down the lineage or whatever. Just pass it, pay it forward. Here I am again. Pay it forward.
Smell the roses. Like... I mean, it's pretty sound.
I can sum up the world with all this montage of movies.
Totally. Should have like a banner or something for each of those ready to pop up. Get your meme, get your meme cannon and just have them ready to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Love
thank
it.
you again, Cindy. And I want to invite anyone who wants to be on the stage and share with us, just like Cindy. Go ahead to go to the website, onedaymvmt.org/sharemygift. Thank you all again. And as always, we'll have a great weekend. And as always, everybody, one day is today. One day is today. One day is today. One day is today.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you for everybody who watched. But